I still remember the sound of my son's voice that night. It wasn't angry, it wasn't cold, it was careful, like someone tiptoeing across broken glass. "Mama," he said over the phone, "Renee thinks it might be best if we keep Christmas small this year. Just us and Jasmine." For a moment, I couldn't even speak. The words didn't make sense. For 38 years, I had hosted every Christmas in the Brooks family. My house smelled of cinnamon and baked ham. My table was where laughter, forgiveness, and stories lived. Now my son, the boy I raised on love and prayer, was telling me not to come. I could hear Renee in the background, whispering something. Then Marcus said quietly, "You understand, right, Mama? It's just this year." I stared at the small artificial tree glowing in the corner of my living room. The ornaments were old, each one with a memory attached. Jasmine's first Christmas photo, Marcus's handprint from kindergarten, the gold angel my late husband Henry gave me before he passed. My throat tightened. "Of course, baby," I said softly. "You two enjoy your holiday." When the call ended, the silence in my house was louder than any music I could have played. I sat there for a long time, looking at that tree, feeling the ache that only a mother knows, the kind that comes not from anger, but from being erased. That night, as the wind moved through the magnolia trees outside my window, I promised myself something. I would not beg for a place at a table I built with my own hands. But I would find out what really made my daughter-in-law so determined to erase me from Christmas. And what I discovered would silence a house full of people before dessert was even served. Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Are you in your kitchen, your car, maybe getting ready for work? Tell me your city in the comments. I love knowing where our stories travel. If this kind of story speaks to your heart, subscribe right now. Every day, we share real stories from women like you. Stories about family, strength, and the power of dignity. My name is Evelyn Brooks, and this is the story of the Christmas they tried to forget me. But I made sure they would never forget what I did next. Atlanta was colder than usual that December. The kind of chill that seeps through the windows even when the heater's humming. I wrapped my shawl around my shoulders, poured myself a cup of tea, and tried to keep my hands from shaking. For most people, Christmas meant joy and noise and company. For me, it had always meant family. Marcus was my only child, my pride and my purpose. Every December since he was born, my house was where the lights shone brightest. My late husband, Henry, used to climb the ladder every year to hang them along the roof, singing off-key carols while I laughed and pretended to scold him. When Henry passed away 12 years ago, Christmas became even more important. It was my way of keeping the warmth alive. I would bake his favorite sweet potato pie, cook my collard greens slow and tender, and fill the house with gospel music and cinnamon candles. Marcus would bring his new wife, and we'd eat until our bellies hurt. But this year, things were different. Renee had changed the rhythm of our family. She wasn't cruel in an obvious way. She had a polished smile, the kind that photographs well. But behind it lived a kind of distance, like she was always calculating how far she could move Marcus away from me without looking like the villain. She called me Evelyn, never Mom. She corrected me gently when I spoke to Jasmine, her 10-year-old daughter, as if my kind of love came from an outdated rulebook. If I gave Jasmine a book, Renee would say, "She prefers digital, Evelyn. She's not really into old-fashioned stories." If I made cornbread, Renee would frown and murmur, "We're cutting down on starch." Every word was wrapped in politeness and coated with judgment. Still I tried. For Marcus's sake. For Jasmine's smile. For the hope that love could be louder than pride. A week before that phone call, I'd seen Marcus at the grocery store, standing in the produce aisle, looking tired. "You getting ready for Christmas, baby?" I'd asked. He smiled, but his eyes looked weary. "Yeah, Renee's hosting this year. She wants to make it elegant." Elegant. I laughed softly. "You mean like last year when you served shrimp on toothpicks and called it dinner?" He smiled, but it was a half-hearted one. "You know how she is, Mom. She likes things modern." I placed my hand on his arm. Modern doesn't mean you have to forget where you came from. He looked away. I know. I should have known then what was coming. That careful tone, the same one he used when he was a boy trying to hide a bad grade. But love makes you see the best in people, even when the truth is staring you right in the face. 3 days later, Renee called me herself. Her voice was sweet like sugar poured over glass. Evelyn, I hope you don't mind, but we decided to do something intimate this year. Just us and a few of Marcus's colleagues. You understand, right? I forced a smile even though she couldn't see it. Of course. Don't you worry about me. I'll be fine. That's wonderful, she said too quickly. Merry Christmas. She hung up before I could even respond. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that presses against your chest and makes you realize how small your house feels when no one's coming. That night, I sat on my porch under the soft yellow glow of the streetlight. My neighbor, Deacon Harold, was out walking his dog. "Evenin', Miss Evelyn," he called. "Evenin', Harold." He stopped at my gate. "You ready for Christmas? I know you always go all out." I smiled faintly. "Not this year. The kids are keeping it small." He tilted his head. "Small, huh? Well, don't let that woman stop you from having a good one. You're still the heart of that family." His words sat with me long after he left. The heart of that family. Was I still? Inside, I looked around at the framed photos lining my hallway. Marcus as a baby, me and Henry on our wedding day, Jasmine's first steps. Every wall told the story of love that built this family. Yet now I was being treated like a guest in my own legacy. I tried to busy myself that week. I wrapped the few gifts I'd bought, a blue sweater for Marcus, gold earrings for Renee, and a small dollhouse Jasmine had been begging for. I told myself I'd mail them, but something inside refused. A quiet voice whispered, "They're your family. You don't mail Christmas to family." By Christmas Eve, the ache in my chest had turned to resolve. I sat by the window, watching snow flurries drift through the streetlights, and made my decision. I was going. Not to make a scene. Not to argue. Just to see my son, to hold my granddaughter, and to remind that house who I was. At dawn, I laid out my best clothes, a long red wool coat Henry had bought me on our last Christmas together, pearl earrings, and polished black shoes. I pressed my hair, sprayed my favorite perfume, and packed my gifts carefully in a small silver bag. I looked at my reflection and said quietly, "You're not an unwanted guest, Evelyn. You're family." When I stepped outside, the air bit at my skin, but my heart was steady. The city was waking up slow, church bells ringing, cars passing, the smell of fireplaces filling the air. Atlanta's Christmas morning had never felt so alive. As I drove toward Marcus and Renee's neighborhood, each mile felt heavier. The houses grew larger, the decorations more extravagant. I could almost feel Renee's perfect world closing around me. But I wasn't afraid. I had lived through harder winters. When I parked in front of their white brick house, I sat for a moment and prayed, "Lord, give me grace, but don't let me shrink." Then I picked up the gift bag, squared my shoulders, and walked toward the door. When I stepped out of the car, the first thing I noticed was how quiet their street was. No kids playing outside, no music drifting from porches, no neighbors talking over fences. Just big houses, perfect lawns, and wreaths that probably came from some catalog instead of a church bazaar. Marcus and Renee's house sat near the end of the cul-de-sac, a white brick two-story with black shutters, candles in every window, and one of those oversized wreaths on the door with a scripted bee hanging in the middle. The kind of place that photographs well and never smells like fried chicken. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment and took a breath. My red wool coat felt heavier than usual. The gift bag in my hand was small, but the memories inside it were not. I straightened my shoulders and walked up the path. Through the front window I could see people moving around, glasses in their hands, Christmas lights reflecting off gold decorations. I heard laughter, clinking silverware, some kind of soft jazz version of a Christmas song. There was a time when that sound meant home to me. Tonight, it felt like a party I was not supposed to see. I knocked on the door. The sound inside dimmed, like somebody turned down the volume on life itself. For a second, I wondered if they would pretend not to hear it. Then I heard light footsteps and the familiar voice that always softened my heart. Grandma. The door cracked open and there she was. Jasmine, with her big brown eyes and curls pulled half up with a red ribbon. She wore a green dress and fuzzy white socks, and when she saw my face, her whole body lit up. Grandma, she squealed, pulling the door wide and launching herself into my arms. I almost dropped the bag. I held her tight, breathed in the scent of cocoa butter and bubble bath, and kissed her cheek. Hey, sugar. You look just like Christmas morning. She giggled and pulled back. I thought you weren't coming. Mommy said you were busy. My chest tightened. Is that what she told you? Jasmine nodded, then grabbed my gloved hand. Come see the tree. It's huge. Before I could say a word, she was dragging me over the threshold. I stepped into the foyer and the warmth of the house wrapped around me. Gold and silver garland hung along the staircase. The floors gleamed. Everything smelled like cinnamon, vanilla, and something roasted in the oven that did not belong to my recipes. Voices in the living room had gone quiet. As Jasmine pulled me forward, I saw them. Renee stood near the fireplace, wearing a cream-colored sweater dress that hugged her figure just enough to say she knew people were looking. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek bun, gold earrings catching the light. She had a glass of wine in her hand and an expression that froze halfway between surprise and annoyance. Marcus stood beside her in a dark green sweater and slacks, handsome as ever, but his eyes widened like a boy who just got caught doing something he knew was wrong. Around the room were about 10 people, all in their 30s and 40s. Well-dressed, stylish, holding wine glasses and small plates. 2 of them I recognized from Marcus's stories, colleagues from his firm. A tall woman with silver bangles, a man with square glasses who looked like he never missed a meeting. In the corner on the couch, sat a woman in her 60s with straightened grey hair and a navy dress. She had the posture of someone important, the kind of woman other people defer to. The moment Jasmine announced, "Grandma's here," the room went quiet. Not church quiet. Awkward quiet. Renee's smile came a second too late. Evelyn. What a surprise. The way she said my name made it sound like an inconvenience, not a blessing. Marcus stepped forward quickly. Mama, I didn't know you were coming. I looked at my son, the man I raised, and I saw guilt all over his face. I know you didn't, I said softly. But I wanted to bring these. I held up the bag. Gifts for my family. Jasmine clapped. Presents. Can I open mine now? Renee cleared her throat. Jasmine, be polite. We have guests. Jasmine pouted, then slipped her hand into mine like she always did. As long as that little hand still reached for me, there was a reason to stand tall. One of the guests, the woman with the silver bangles, spoke up. It is so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Brooks. We have heard Marcus talk about your cooking. I smiled at her, grateful for the lifeline. Please, call me Evelyn. And I did bring something. I gestured toward the front door. There is a sweet potato pie and a pan of cornbread in the car. I thought I'd at least contribute. Renee's jaw tightened, just for a second. If I had blinked, I would have missed it. That is very kind, she said. Although we already have everything prepared. I hired a caterer this year. She gestured to the dining table, visible through the archway. It was set perfectly, with white plates, crystal glasses, and small gold place cards. The kind of table you see in magazines. It was beautiful. It was cold. Marcus shifted his weight. Mama's cornbread is kind of a tradition. Renee looked at him sharply, then turned back to me with a polished smile. Of course. We can always make room for more. Jasmine, why don't you show your grandmother the tree while Marcus helps her with the dishes from the car? Jasmine tugged my hand. Come on, Grandma. As I walked toward the tree, I felt Renee's eyes on my back. The big pine in the corner was decorated in all white and gold. Matching ribbons, matching ornaments. No handmade crafts. No crooked stars. No sign a child had been allowed to create anything. Do you like it? Jasmine asked, her face glowing. It is very pretty, baby, I said. But where is the ornament you made in 2nd grade? The one with the glitter that got everywhere. She frowned. Mommy said it did not match the aesthetic, so she put it in a box. Aesthetic. That word tasted like dust in my mouth. From the corner of my eye, I saw Renee glide into the kitchen, motioning to the caterer. The clink of pans and low murmurs floated out. Marcus came back in, slightly out of breath, carrying my pie and cornbread. He looked at me apologetically. I put them on the sideboard, Mama, he said. We can slice them later. Thank you, baby. The guests began talking again, but the room never fully relaxed. People smiled at me, but it was the careful kind of smile. The kind that says, I am being polite because I am supposed to be. The older woman on the couch watched me with sharp eyes. After a while, she stood and approached. You must be Evelyn, she said. I am Denise Campbell. I work with Renee. Her handshake was firm, her gaze steady. She had the kind of presence that made people sit up straighter. Nice to meet you, I replied. Thank you for having me in your home today. She gave a small smile. Far as I am concerned, any woman who raised Marcus the way you did belongs at any table he sits at. That was the first moment I felt a little less alone in that house. Renee called from the dining room. Everyone, dinner is almost ready. You can start finding your seats. I glanced toward the table. There were 10 chairs arranged perfectly. 10 plates. 10 name cards. I counted quickly. There were 11 adults in the room now. And 1 child. I did not see my name anywhere. I walked a little closer, pretending to admire the centerpiece while my eyes scanned the cards. Marcus, Renee, Jasmine, Denise, 2 partners from the firm, their spouses, a neighbor couple, and Renee's cousin Simone. I recognized her from photos on social media. No, Evelyn. No, Mrs. Brooks. Just an empty chair at the corner of the table with no card at all. Renee came up beside me, lowering her voice. Evelyn, we had the table set before Marcus told me you were coming. I did not want to mess up the arrangement. You know how it is. I looked at her. No, I do not know how it is. Help me understand. She offered a quick laugh that did not reach her eyes. Well, there is just limited space at the main table, and I want our guests to be comfortable. I am not a guest, I said quietly. I am his mother. Her smile stiffened. Of course. Which is why I thought you might be more comfortable in the kitchen area, closer to the food and to Jasmine if she needs anything. Comfortable, I repeated. She touched my elbow lightly, as if guiding a child. Marcus and I will figure it out. Just relax, Evelyn. Enjoy the evening. Denise watched from a distance, eyes narrowing. Marcus hovered near the doorway, clearly seeing the name cards but saying nothing. Jasmine ran in at that moment, waving a little stuffed bear. Grandma, can you sit next to me at dinner? Renee's shoulders tensed. We will see, sweetheart. Go wash your hands for dinner. Jasmine skipped away. I took a breath and forced my voice to stay even. Thank you for including me, Renee. However it happened. She blinked, surprised by my calm. Of course. But deep down, a knot had started to form in my chest. Something about those perfectly arranged place cards, that empty corner, and the way she said, kitchen area, told me this night was going to test parts of my spirit I had not had to use in a long time. I walked back to the living room and sat on the edge of the sofa. The sounds of chairs sliding, glasses being set, and silverware clinking drifted out of the dining room. People were settling into their seats at the table. I could feel it already. A table I set for years now had a place for everyone. Everyone but me. Dinner was announced like a ceremony. Renee's voice rang through the house, sweet but commanding. Everyone, it's time to eat. The guests moved toward the dining room, their laughter picking back up as if the air hadn't gone cold a few minutes earlier. I followed behind slowly, letting the others go first. Years of hosting had taught me to wait until everyone else was seated before taking my place. Only this time, I wasn't sure I even had one. Renee floated from guest to guest, touching arms, offering compliments about dresses and ties, making sure every detail reflected her image of perfection. Marcus stood near the far end of the table, adjusting glasses and pretending not to see the awkwardness lingering in the air. He looked like a man trying to hold two worlds together with trembling hands. Jasmine slipped between us, whispering, "Grandma, sit next to me." I smiled at her, grateful for the innocence that had not yet learned to read tension. "I'd love that, baby." But when I reached the table, Renee intercepted. "Sweetheart, remember what we talked about? Grandma's going to sit somewhere more comfortable." Jasmine frowned. "But she can sit here. There's space next to Daddy." Renee's smile didn't waver. "It's okay, Jasmine. Grandma will still be close." She guided me gently toward the archway that led to the kitchen. There, just past the dining room, was a small breakfast nook with a narrow table set for two. A folded linen napkin, one plate, one wineglass, and a small vase with a white rose, like someone had dressed up Pity to look polite. "I thought this might be more peaceful," Renee said. "You'll have space, and the kitchen staff can make sure you have everything you need." The words hit soft but landed hard. More peaceful. I had worked in kitchens, served from them, filled them with laughter and steam, but I had never been told to eat in one. Not in my own family's house. Marcus appeared behind her, silent. Our eyes met. I saw the conflict written all over him. Guilt, embarrassment, fear. He wasn't strong enough to fight for me. Not tonight. I set the gift bag down beside the small table. "This will be fine," I said quietly. Renee's face softened with relief, as if I'd made the right choice in her silent test. "Wonderful. I'll send someone with your plate." She returned to her guests before I could respond. I sat down slowly, listening to the muffled laughter and the soft clink of silverware from the next room. The scent of roasted turkey drifted through the air, mixed with something floral from the candles Renee had chosen. I could almost hear the rhythm of their voices, polished, practiced, perfectly timed. My fork trembled slightly as I lifted it. Then Jasmine appeared again, tiptoeing around the doorway. She carried a small roll wrapped in a napkin. "Grandma, you forgot bread." I smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart." Renee's voice came sharply from the dining room. "Jasmine, come sit down right now." The little girl froze, then looked back at me. "It's okay, baby. Go ahead." She returned to her seat, and I heard Renee say in a hushed but firm tone, "We don't interrupt adults while they're eating." I tried to swallow, but the food turned to paste in my mouth. The laughter from the dining table returned, a thin layer over something brittle. I heard Marcus say something, a joke maybe, but his voice cracked halfway through. Through the doorway, I could see only fragments. Hands passing plates, people smiling politely, glasses lifting for toasts. And Renee, always at the center, the perfect hostess. She moved like she was performing, her posture flawless, her laughter controlled. The guests saw elegance. I saw exhaustion, the kind that comes from trying to polish away your roots. After a while, one of the guests excused himself to the kitchen for more water. When he saw me, his face flushed with surprise. "Oh, Mrs. Brooks. I didn't realize you were in here." "I'm fine, honey," I said. "Just enjoying dinner." He hesitated, glancing back toward the dining room. "Would you like me to let them know you need anything?" "No, thank you," I replied. "They've already given me everything I need." He nodded awkwardly and slipped away. From the other room, someone started talking about traditions, how their families spent Christmas, what they ate, who hosted. I heard Denise's voice, calm and deliberate. In my family, elders sit at the head of the table. Always have, always will. The room went quiet. I didn't have to see it to know everyone felt the weight of her words. Renee's voice followed, brittle but steady. That's a beautiful tradition. Denise didn't respond. I pictured her sipping her wine slowly, eyes cutting toward the kitchen. A few minutes later, she appeared at the doorway. Evelyn, mind if I join you for a minute? I looked up. Of course not. She stepped inside, balancing her plate. I needed a breather from all that polite conversation. I chuckled softly. It can be exhausting watching people pretend. She smiled knowingly. You have a good heart, Mrs. Brooks. But don't you let anyone make you feel small in your own family. I'm just trying to keep the peace, I said. Peace built on silence is a short lease, she replied. Eventually, someone breaks it, and it's never the person who started it. Her words sank deep. She stayed with me for a few minutes, asking about my cooking, my husband, my son. We laughed quietly over old recipes and burnt casseroles. When she stood to leave, she placed a hand on my shoulder. You raised a good man. Don't let this place make you doubt that. As she walked back toward the table, I caught Renee's eyes following her. Something flickered there. Irritation, maybe even insecurity. By dessert, the sound of conversation had softened into the easy murmur of satisfaction. Plates clinked, wine poured, laughter returned. I stayed in my small corner, eating slowly, pretending I didn't hear the toast being made to modern family values. Then Jasmine ran in again, face bright with joy. Grandma, we're having pie now. Mommy said we could. Renee appeared right behind her, smiling too wide. Sweetheart, Grandma's already had her dessert. Haven't you, Evelyn? I looked down at my empty plate, crumbs of cornbread scattered across it. Not yet, actually. Renee's smile tightened. I'll send some over. But the kitchen's a little crowded right now. Just relax, we'll bring it. She turned and guided Jasmine back out. The child's small voice trailed behind her. But Grandma loves pie. When the laughter resumed, it sounded louder than before, as if to cover something up. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, back straight. The pie never came. But what came instead was a decision, forming quiet and strong in my chest. I didn't know how or when, but something in this house was about to shift. Not through anger, through truth. They say you can tell what kind of house you are in by how they treat the oldest person at the table. By the time dinner plates were cleared, I already knew exactly what kind of house this was. The caterers moved in and out like a quiet machine, collecting plates from the main table first. Laughter still floated from that room, but every time I glanced over, I saw it dim slightly when someone's eyes flicked in my direction. I finished the last bite of my cornbread and set my fork down carefully. You learn, with age, how to hold your dignity like fine china. Even when people pass you over, you do not drop yourself. Renee swept in from the dining room, smiling too hard, voice too bright. Everyone enjoying everything, she called, not really asking. A chorus of affirmations followed from the dining room. Someone complimented the rosemary lamb. Someone else praised the wine pairing. It all sounded like a script. She turned to me then, as if remembering I existed. Evelyn, can I trouble you for a tiny favor? I looked up slowly. What do you need? The caterers are trying to clear space in here for dessert, she said, gesturing at the small nook. There are still trays and dishes coming through. I was thinking you might be more comfortable in the back, so you are not in the way. The back, I repeated. She nodded toward the rear of the kitchen. There is a little table in the laundry room. It is quiet and out of the traffic flow. You will have some privacy. I will send your dessert back there. For a moment, I thought I misheard her. You want me to eat in the laundry room? Her eyes darted toward the dining room, as if afraid someone might be listening. Please do not say it like that. It is just more practical. The kitchen is busy, The dining room is full, and we need room to plate dessert. I am just trying to keep things organized. You have guests at that table, I said quietly. Friends, colleagues, people from your firm. Am I not a guest? She shifted her weight. Of course you are. But you are also family. Family understands when things are not perfect. I felt the words slice through me. You mean family is the one you move out of the way so the guests can be comfortable? Her jaw clenched. Please do not make this into a thing, Evelyn. I am juggling a lot tonight. I just need your cooperation. Behind her, I could see Marcus standing near the archway, pretending to talk to one of his friends while glancing over with worried eyes. He heard every word. He did not move. Denise appeared at the edge of the kitchen, plate in hand. Her gaze went from Renee to me and back again. Everything all right in here? Renee turned toward her with a practiced smile. All under control. I am just rearranging some seating so the staff can move. Denise looked at me. Evelyn. I met her eyes. There was a question there. A quiet, sharp question. I answered it with a small nod. Not approval. Just acknowledgement. I am fine, baby, I said. Your friend here is very organized. Renee exhaled in visible relief. She took a step closer. The laundry room is just through here. I will have Jasmine bring your dessert. That was the moment I almost said no. Almost stood up, straightened my coat, and walked right out that door. Almost told Renee that I had eaten at too many tables, hosted too many dinners, and survived too much life to be told to sit among detergents and dirty clothes. But then I pictured Jasmine's face. Her excitement when she saw me. The way she had whispered, "Sit by me, Grandma." Some wounds you take not because you are weak, but because you are protecting someone small. So I stood. My knees complained, but my back stayed straight. Show me the way then, I said. Renee led me through the kitchen. The caterers stepped aside with murmured apologies. One of them, a young woman with braids tied back in a scarf, gave me a sympathetic look. She knew. Anyone who has ever worked with their hands knows the difference between respect and decoration. At the back of the house, a white door stood slightly ajar. Renee pushed it open to reveal a laundry room barely big enough for 2 people. Washer and dryer on one wall, shelves with detergent and fabric softener on the other. In the middle, squeezed in as an afterthought, was a small folding table with a single chair. She gestured inside. See. Cozy. Quiet. I looked at the machines, the bleach bottle, the basket of towels in the corner. The hum of the dryer had a low, restless sound. Cozy, I repeated. Renee stepped back, already turning away. I will have your dessert sent in a minute. Renee, I said softly. She paused, hand on the doorframe. When you married my son, I welcomed you as family. I prayed over your union. I sat at the back of your fancy wedding and smiled until my cheeks hurt. I never thought I would live to see the day my daughter-in-law told me to eat in a laundry room. Her face flickered, just for a heartbeat. Evelyn, you are reading this all wrong. No, I said, voice steady. I am reading it exactly right. Out in the hallway, I heard small footsteps. Jasmine's voice floated through. Mommy, where is Grandma going? Renee stiffened. Jasmine, stay in the dining room. Grandma is going to sit somewhere more comfortable. The little girl ignored her. She slipped around her mother and peeked into the laundry room. Why are you in here, Grandma? My heart clenched. Children have a way of shining light on the places adults try to keep in shadow. Before I could answer, Renee stepped in. Jasmine, this is not a big deal. The kitchen is busy, and we want Grandma to have some quiet. She is tired. Older people need space. Jasmine frowned. She can sit next to me. I will be quiet. Renee's tone sharpened. Jasmine, I said go back to the table. Jasmine looked between us. Did Grandma do something wrong? That question hung in the air like smoke. No, baby, I said gently. Grandma did not do anything wrong. Jasmine's eyes filled with confusion. Then why is she eating with the laundry? Renee's cheeks flushed. Enough, Jasmine. Go sit down. Now. The girl hesitated, then hugged me around the waist. I wanted you at the table, she whispered. I know, sugar. Go on. She walked back toward the dining room, shoulders slumped in a way a child's shoulders should never slump on Christmas. Renee turned to me. Children do not understand these things. Please do not feed into it. I looked at her. Really looked. 20 years from now, she would be the woman standing where I stood. Older, softer around the eyes, waiting for someone to decide where she belonged. I wondered if she could see that future. Bless your heart, I said quietly. Not as a curse. As a warning. Then I stepped into the laundry room. Renee closed the door halfway, not quite all the way, not quite open. That in-between space that matches people who want to do wrong without seeing it. I sat down at the little table. The dryer hummed beside me. Somewhere in the house, someone started a Christmas playlist. Voices rose and fell. Silverware sang against china. After a minute or two, the door eased open again. Denise stood there holding a dessert plate with a neat slice of store-bought pecan tart. I traded one of them for this, she said. Somebody's husband can eat his calories in there tonight. I tried to smile. You did not have to do that. Oh, I know, she replied. I wanted to. She looked around the room slowly, taking in the washer and dryer, the cramped chair, the improvised table. Laundry room, huh? Apparently, it is more practical this way, I said. She shook her head. That girl has lost her mind. Be kind, I answered, though I did not feel much like kindness. She is young. She thinks respect is optional. Denise set the plate in front of me and then, to my surprise, pulled a second chair from the hallway and squeezed it into the room. The space became even smaller, but my heart felt a little bigger. What are you doing? I asked. Ruining her seating chart, she said calmly. If the elder is in the laundry room, then so am I. We both sat. The image of two black women, one late 50s, one early 60s, squeezed between a dryer and a shelf of detergent, sharing dessert on Christmas, would have been absurd if it had not been so sacred. We ate in silence for a moment. The tart was sweet but empty. I could almost taste how much better my sweet potato pie would have been. Denise wiped her fork and sighed. Do you mind if I ask you something personal? Go ahead. When Marcus was little, did you ever imagine this for him? A big house, nice job, Christmas dinners with partners and catered food. I smiled faintly. I imagined him happy. I imagined him safe. I imagined him with someone who loved all of him, not just the parts that look good in a picture. The house and job are nice. The rest, I shrugged. I did not imagine this part. Denise nodded slowly. You know they started talking about you after you walked back here. The table went quiet for a minute. Then somebody said something about how traditions change. I told them some things do not. What did you tell them? That in my mother's house, if my grandmother had been asked to eat in the laundry room, the entire evening would have ended right there. And my mother would have been the one to end it. I let out a small laugh. Your mama sounds like a woman I would like to meet. You would have liked her. And she would have liked you. A knock came at the half-open door. Marcus stood there, shoulders hunched, plate in hand, eyes full of shame. Can I come in? He asked. This your mother's laundry room, Denise replied. But since you asked so nicely, come on. He stepped in, looked around, and his face crumpled a little. Mama, I am so sorry. You already said that with your eyes, I answered. The question is what you are going to do with your mouth. He glanced back toward the dining room, where the sound of conversation had shifted to a lower, uneasy murmur. If I say anything out there, it will embarrass Renee. Denise cut in. And what happened in here did not embarrass your mother. He winced. I set my fork down. Baby, I am not asking you to fight your wife. I am asking you to remember who you were before you met her. And who was that? A boy who would have argued with a teacher, a deacon, and a police officer if they tried to sit his mama by the washing machine. He swallowed hard. I remember that boy. Good, I said. Because one day your daughter is going to marry somebody. And you are teaching her right now what a man does when his wife disrespects his mother. That landed. I saw it in his eyes. From the dining room came the sound of a spoon tapping a glass. Renee's clear voice followed. Everyone, before we have coffee, I wanted to say a few words about family. Denise raised an eyebrow. Well, she said softly. Seems like showtime. Marcus looked at me, then at Denise, then back toward the dining room. You could almost see the lines being drawn inside him. Fear on one side, love on the other. He straightened his shoulders. Mama, he said, I am going to fix this. I did not know what that meant yet. I did not know what he would say. But for the first time that evening, I believed he might actually try. He walked out of the laundry room, leaving the door fully open. The dryer hummed. The house rustled. Renee began her speech in the other room about unity and gratitude and chosen family. She had no idea that in a matter of minutes, the truth she had tried to shove into the back of the house was about to walk right back into her perfect dining room. The sound of silverware against china stopped mid-clink when Marcus stepped back into the dining room. Renee froze mid-sentence, her hand still raised with the wine glass. Every guest turned, waiting for him to sit, to smile, to do the polite thing. He didn't. He cleared his throat and said, Before we serve dessert, there's something I need to say. Renee blinked, confused. Marcus, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, he said firmly. Because my mother is sitting in the laundry room right now. On Christmas. Eating by herself. A heavy silence dropped over the room like a curtain. The only sound came from the soft hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen. Someone set down their glass too quickly, and the clink echoed through the air. Renee's voice came out tight. Marcus, please. He cut her off. No. You told Jasmine her grandmother needed space. You told her it was about comfort. But let's call it what it is. You didn't want my mother at this table because she doesn't fit your picture of perfection. Renee's face turned pale. That's not fair. It's the truth, he said, his voice steady but rising. You can decorate this house with gold and candles, but if there's no room at your table for the woman who raised me, it's not a home. It's a showroom. No one moved. Denise set down her fork and said softly, Say that again, son. Marcus looked at the guests. My mother taught me that family isn't about image or money. It's about respect. And tonight, my wife forgot that. Jasmine slipped into the silence, her small voice trembling but clear. Grandma didn't do anything wrong. She just wanted to eat with us. That did it. Every head turned toward the little girl standing in the doorway. Her curls framed her face, her green dress shimmering under the light. In her hands, she held the slice of pie Denise had given Evelyn. I brought her dessert, she said. Because everyone forgot. Renee covered her face, whispering, Oh my God. Evelyn appeared behind Jasmine, standing tall, hands folded neatly in front of her. The dryer hum still echoed faintly from the open door behind her. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the entire room. No one forgot, baby, she said gently. Some people just needed reminding. Every person at the table looked down, avoiding her eyes. The caterers had stopped moving completely. Even the candles seemed to burn lower. Evelyn walked to the head of the table and set down her plate. I don't need a seat here. I just want to say something. She looked at the guests, then at Renee. One day, you'll be where I am. You'll love someone enough to raise them, feed them, sacrifice for them, and hope they remember. I pray, when that day comes, The woman standing in your shoes doesn't treat you the way you treated me. Renee's eyes filled with tears. Her voice came out barely a whisper. Evelyn, I'm sorry. Evelyn nodded once. I know you are. Then Jasmine tugged on her grandmother's sleeve. Can we go home, Grandma? Evelyn smiled softly. Yes, baby. Let's go home. As they turned to leave, no one spoke. Not Marcus. Not the guests. Not even Renee. The truth had already done all the talking. The next morning, Atlanta felt quiet in a way that only happens after a storm nobody saw coming. Evelyn woke early, out of habit. She brewed coffee in her old percolator, the scent filling her kitchen, soft and real, nothing like the sterile sweetness of Renee's designer candles. She sat at the table where she'd once helped Marcus with spelling homework and where her late husband had read the morning paper. The same house, the same woman, but everything had changed. The phone rang. It was Denise. Girl, you made the news, she said. Evelyn frowned. What are you talking about? Not TV news. Church news. Community news. Half of Atlanta knows what that girl did to you last night. Apparently, one of the guests, the same man who had walked in on Evelyn eating alone earlier, had posted something on social media. Imagine inviting your husband's mother to Christmas and making her eat in the laundry room. No names, but everyone in their circle knew exactly who it was about. By noon, Renee's perfect image had cracked wide open. At her condo, Renee sat in her kitchen scrolling through her phone, her name whispered in group chats, her reputation unraveling faster than she could breathe. A colleague texted, "Please tell me that post isn't about you." Another wrote, "I thought you were better than that." Even her firm's senior partner, the same woman who'd championed her promotion, called that morning. "Renee," she said coldly, "we represent families. Respect begins at home. I suggest you fix whatever you broke." Marcus watched her pacing the room, hands trembling. "I never meant for it to get this far," she said. "I just wanted the night to be perfect." "You wanted control," he said quietly. "And you hurt everyone in the process." He grabbed his coat. "I'm going to see my mother." When he arrived, Evelyn didn't look surprised. She was setting another plate at her kitchen table. One for him. "I figured you'd come hungry," she said. Marcus sat down, guilt written all over his face. "Mama, I let you down." She poured him coffee and said softly, "No, baby. You stood up when it mattered. Maybe not soon enough, but you did." He looked up, eyes wet. "Renee's been crying all morning. People are turning on her. She's terrified." Evelyn sighed. Humiliation has a way of teaching faster than wisdom ever could. "I think she wants to apologize again. For real this time." Evelyn nodded. "Then she can start by feeding someone other than herself." That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Renee stood on the porch, no makeup, red eyes, holding a covered dish that smelled faintly of sweet potato. "I didn't come to defend myself," she said. "I came to bring something I made." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "You cooked?" Renee nodded nervously. "I tried your recipe. The one Marcus said was your favorite." Evelyn stepped aside. "Come in, then." They sat at the table, the same one Renee had never visited before, and for the first time, she looked around, really looked. Family photos, old curtains, chipped cabinets that told stories of years gone by. "I called this life small," Renee whispered. "But this house feels bigger than mine ever did." Evelyn smiled faintly. "That's because love doesn't fit into square footage." When Marcus and Jasmine came in later, the table was full again, not with guests in suits, but with forgiveness. Evelyn served Renee a slice of her real pie, and this time, Renee didn't refuse it. She took a bite, closed her eyes, and whispered, "It tastes like home." By Sunday morning, word of what had happened at the Mitchells' Christmas dinner had traveled farther than either of them expected. At church, whispers followed Renee down the aisle. Not cruel gossip, just quiet judgment. The kind that came from women who'd been taught to respect the hands that fed them. Evelyn arrived late, wearing her Sunday hat, head held high. The moment she stepped inside, the choir paused mid-rehearsal. Sister Bernice walked over, hugged her tight, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "We're proud of you, Miss Evelyn. You showed grace when most of us would have flipped a table." Laughter rippled through the room, and for the first time in days, Evelyn's shoulders relaxed. Across the sanctuary, Renee sat beside Marcus and Jasmine, her eyes downcast. After service, she approached Evelyn, voice trembling. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight, but I promise I'm learning. Last night I took Jasmine with me to deliver meals at the shelter. She said, 'Grandma would be proud of us.' I hope she's right." Evelyn looked at her daughter-in-law for a long moment. "You're not there yet," she said gently, "but that's the right road to start on." As they walked out together, Marcus took one hand, Jasmine the other. The sunlight hit them just right, 3 generations walking towards something new. At home that evening, Evelyn pulled her mac and cheese from the oven, the smell filling the air again. She smiled softly. In her house, there was no laundry room table. Just one table, where everyone belonged. The days that followed brought a quiet peace to Evelyn's home. The Christmas tree still stood in the corner, its light soft against the window, a reminder that not every holiday was perfect, but some still had purpose. Marcus came by every evening after work, fixing things she hadn't asked him to fix, just to be near her. Jasmine helped take down the ornaments, chatting about school and her new plan to help Grandma cook real family dinners every Sunday. Renee came too, never empty-handed. Sometimes with groceries, sometimes with just time to give. She didn't rush forgiveness, she earned it in silence, washing dishes, learning recipes, asking questions instead of giving instructions. The pride that once made her untouchable now softened into humility. One afternoon, Evelyn caught her in the kitchen staring at an old photo on the fridge, a picture of Marcus as a boy, his cheeks full, holding a mixing spoon bigger than his arm. Renee smiled faintly. "He told me this was the first time you let him stir the mac and cheese." Evelyn nodded. "He stirred it, but I made sure it didn't burn." They both laughed, a small, cautious sound, but honest. That night, Renee stayed for dinner. For the first time, she didn't sit stiff or guarded. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, listening as Evelyn told stories about the old neighborhood, about Marcus's first job, about the man he became. Jasmine reached across the table, linking her small hand with both of theirs. "Can we do this every week?" she asked. Evelyn smiled, eyes glistening. "That's the plan, baby. Every Sunday, right here." Renee looked around the modest dining room, the lace curtains, the chipped salt shaker, the warmth that no luxury condo could ever buy, and whispered, "I used to think love had to look perfect. Now I see it just has to feel real." Evelyn squeezed her hand gently. "Welcome to the family, Renee. For real this time." A year later, Christmas arrived again, but this time everything felt different. The air outside was cold and crisp, Atlanta dusted with a soft winter haze, while inside Renee's home, warmth filled every corner. The same house that once carried tension now smelled of baked yams, roasted chicken, and mac and cheese bubbling golden in the oven. But it wasn't Evelyn cooking this time. It was Renee. She stood at the stove wearing a red apron that read "Blessed and Busy," her curls pulled back, hands dusted with flour. She moved carefully, humming a gospel tune Evelyn had taught her months earlier. Marcus was setting the table, Jasmine arranging napkins shaped like little Christmas trees. Laughter floated through the house. Light, genuine, easy. When the doorbell rang, Jasmine shouted, "She's here," and ran to open the door. Evelyn stood outside, wrapped in her deep green coat and pearls, holding a small box tied with a gold ribbon. Jasmine threw her arms around her. "Grandma, we made everything ourselves." Evelyn smiled, stepping inside. The house glowed with the same decorations as last year, but the spirit was brand new. On the counter, beside the gleaming dishes, sat a note card with neat handwriting. "Mac and cheese a la Evelyn Brooks, family recipe. Renee wiped her hands and came over, eyes bright but nervous. I followed your recipe word for word, she said softly. But I know it won't taste like yours. Evelyn set the box on the counter, opening it to reveal a perfectly baked sweet potato pie. That's because love takes time, she said. But from what I smell, you're getting there. When everyone gathered around the table, Marcus took Evelyn's hand, then Renee's. Last year, we forgot what Christmas was about, he said. We let pride sit where love should have been. But this year we got it right. Renee's eyes shimmered. Evelyn, I'll never forget how you forgave me when I didn't deserve it. I didn't understand what family meant until I almost lost it. Thank you for teaching me. Evelyn looked around, her son, her granddaughter, her daughter-in-law, and felt something deeper than pride. It was peace. You don't have to thank me, baby. Just keep the table open. Always. As they ate, Jasmine giggled between bites of mac and cheese. Grandma, I think Mama's tastes just like yours. Evelyn laughed. Well, look at God working miracles. The meal stretched into the night, filled with stories and songs, plates scraped clean and hearts made whole. There was no tension, no silence, no separation, just the sound of a family that had healed. When Evelyn stood to leave, Renee followed her to the door. You forgot something, she said, handing her the leftover pan of mac and cheese. This time, it's for you. Evelyn smiled, the kind of smile that comes from surviving storms. Merry Christmas, baby. As she walked out into the cold night, the sound of laughter echoed behind her. The house glowed from within, warm and alive. Proof that sometimes, love doesn't come easy, but it always finds its way home. Later that night, Evelyn sat in her living room, the faint glow of her Christmas tree casting golden reflections across the framed photos on her wall. She leaned back in her armchair, sweet potato pie cooling on the table beside her, a smile soft as the flicker of the lights. It had been years since her home had felt this peaceful, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was carrying the weight of being the strong one. She whispered to herself, sometimes, God don't fix what's broken. He teaches you how to build it new. The house was quiet, but her heart was full. She looked at the photo of her younger self and Jerome, her late husband, holding a baby Marcus in their arms. They were standing on the porch of that same old house where so many tears had been shed, but also where laughter had always found its way back. Evelyn traced her fingers across the frame and exhaled. Jerome, she said softly, you'd be proud of our boy. He finally found his strength, and his peace. And that girl, Renee, she learned what love really costs. Not money, not image, but humility. The clock ticked quietly, the night deepening around her. Her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Marcus. Love you, Mama. Thank you for showing us what grace looks like. Her eyes welled with tears. Grace. That word had carried her through every storm, losing her husband, raising Marcus alone, learning to forgive the daughter-in-law who once treated her like a burden. Grace was what held her when pride tried to take over. Grace was what kept her heart soft in a world that often hardened people like her. The next morning, she walked into her neighborhood church. The choir was rehearsing, the smell of pine and candles filling the air. When she entered, people turned and smiled. Sister Evelyn, always radiant, always dignified, had become a quiet symbol in her community. Not for her suffering, but for how she handled it. Pastor Lewis greeted her at the door. Sister Evelyn, we missed you last week. She smiled. Had a little Christmas miracle to attend to. He chuckled. Care to share it? Let's just say, she replied, sometimes the good Lord has a way of turning pain into invitation. You just have to show up when you're not wanted. Later, during the service, as the choir sang Amazing Grace, Evelyn closed her eyes. The words felt heavier this year. Deeper, earned. When the song ended, she stayed seated, her heart speaking louder than her lips. She thought of all the women who would sit alone that holiday season. Mothers forgotten, grandmothers excluded, women whose love was taken for granted. And she wished she could tell each one, "You still matter." Even when they forget your name at the table, God never does. After service, a young woman approached her. "Miss Evelyn, I saw you on Facebook," she said shyly. "Your daughter-in-law's post about forgiving family, it went viral. Everyone's talking about how you handled it." Evelyn laughed softly. "Lord, the internet done found me again." "She called you her hero," the woman continued. "Said you taught her what family really means." Evelyn paused, humbled. "That's what we're supposed to do, baby. Not fight to be right, but to love until something changes." That evening, she returned home to find a small envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a handwritten note from Renee. "Evelyn, thank you for not giving up on me. You could have closed the door, but instead you set an extra plate. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that grace." Underneath was a small silver charm, a tiny heart engraved with the words, "Forgiven and found." Evelyn pressed the charm to her chest. "That's all I ever wanted," she whispered. She walked over to her kitchen window, looking out at the street below. Children playing in the cold, neighbors exchanging leftovers, the sound of carolers faint in the distance. The world, imperfect as ever, still felt beautiful. And then she thought about all the people who would watch her story someday, people who might feel just like she once did, uninvited, unseen, unwanted. She wanted them to hear her voice in that moment, steady and sure. If someone shuts the door on you, don't lose yourself trying to force it open. Stand tall. Love loud. Show grace, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Let God handle the rest. She turned off the tree lights and walked toward her bedroom, the silver charm glinting softly in her hand. Before she closed the door, she glanced one last time at her home, her sanctuary, her proof that healing doesn't always come fast, but it comes for those who wait with faith. The camera of her memory froze that image, a woman who had been humiliated, overlooked, dismissed, now standing in her peace, her dignity intact, her legacy alive. As the night deepened and silence wrapped around her house, Evelyn whispered her final prayer of the year. "Lord, thank you for reminding me that even when people forget the meaning of family, you never forget the meaning of love." And with that, she turned off the lights, smiled softly to herself, and let the stillness of forgiveness fill the room.